Ready?
Yep. I'll read the script here. 1 second. Ready? On behalf of the Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs, I'd like to welcome you to the 1 p.m. presentation from the Connecticut Department of Housing, presented by Don Parker and Matt Lebeau. I'd like to cover a few ground rules for the presentation. The session will be recorded. We will be muting all microphones at the start of the presentation. To ask questions, please type them in the chat area and the moderator will review and pass along to the presenter. If you are unable to utilize the chat, please raise your hand feature and we will be called upon. Both are located on the bar when you scroll over the meeting screen. Please do not share any personal identifiable information as these sessions are not confidential. We suggest you keep your camera off as this helps keep the bandwidth down and improves connectivity. Thank you and enjoy the presentation, and I'll hand it off to you, Matt, when you're ready.
Thank you. I'll just start sharing my screen now. My name is Matt Lebeau. I am an employee of the Department of Housing through the program UniteCT. Also on this chat is Don Parker, who is the director of the UniteCT program. Don will be monitoring the chat for answering any questions along this process along the way. As this presentation is being recorded, we also have some great contact information here in terms of how to connect with questions about the program. Our website is listed here, as is our call center and the UniteCT resource centers, which will be in the presentation, but contact information is also on the website at unitect.ct.gov. For technical support, please go to doh-unitect@ct.gov. As a summary of the program, the goal of UniteCT is to help stabilize Connecticut's rental housing market. This $235 million program will provide rental and electric utility payment assistance to qualified Connecticut households financially impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The program will financially support households up to 80% of HUD area median income. And as a summary of the funding, UniteCT provides qualified households with up to $15,000 in arrears or 12 months in arrears and prospective rent payments, as well as utility arrearage payments going back to April of 2020. Payments are typically made directly to landlords and utility companies on behalf of the tenants. The funding can cover arrears accrued since the declaration of the national emergency on March 13th, 2020. Approved applicants will be able to apply for consideration to extend financial support for an additional 3 months of prospective rent if they have not exhausted their allowable months and reached the monetary cap. This includes the ability for a tenant to apply up to 1 month security deposit and 3 months prospective rent with a new landlord. The UniteCT application is completely online and accessible by smartphone or computer. New Treasury guidelines are in place which allow for direct payments to tenants to support housing stability if the previous rental relationship is unworkable and new housing cannot be obtained. Stand down specific information in terms of fixed income households who have to show their COVID hardship through expenses incurred because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The program is able to work with people who find a new landlord with the security deposit and 3 months perspective so that those who have been couch surfing, doubled up, or homeless during the pandemic because of a loss of income, can get back on their feet that way. Those who have received publicly subsidized housing can still apply, but we cannot cover funding covered by the subsidy, and we can cover remaining portions if the person qualifies through showing COVID hardship and expenses were incurred. Tenants and landlords working together. This is a pretty big part for the process for making sure that the application can move forward. Tenants must complete their own applications separately from the landlords for the application to be reviewed. But either the tenant or the landlord can start the application. So once submitted, an invite link will go to the other party. And if both parties start at the same time, the system will link applications based on a matching email address. Remember to upload the correct email for your tenant or landlord so the system can match the applications and they can meet in the middle. If only one party submits their application, the case will not be reviewed. We're not able to review until both parties have completely submitted their application. Landlords shall not at any time serve any notice to quit, initiate, or prosecute any summary process action against the tenant for non-payment of rent accrued prior to the date on which assistance is provided or during any month for which assistance is provided under the program. And this is our UniteCT background information in terms of what the program does and some of the important guidelines and some of the resources that are available for tenants and landlords. If you don't have access technology, our biggest and first question is always, do you have someone in your life who you can trust? That could be a tenant representative or a landlord representative. These roles apply on behalf of both on behalf of the applicant. They're the main point of contact during the application process. So to create a tenant representative account, click on the tenant representative role when you register, which will be shown here. And to create a landlord representative account, you click on the landlord role as you register. Then on the first page, you click yes to being a landlord representative. And this is how they look when you set up a tenant representative or a landlord representative account. And then you'll answer that first question that says, yes, are you a landlord representative? If you don't have access to technology, the technology access support map located on our website will be able to help you find a computer near you. And you can also contact one of our UniteCT resource centers, which the list is on the website, and we'll show you in just a bit, who have staff that can help you with the application. Our community partnerships, our UniteCT resource centers are listed here with phone number, street address, and our priority is to having people go towards where they're co-located, where their closest resource center would be, just in case there's any documents that need to be dropped off. Although this entire process can be done over the phone and through email. In terms of additional partnerships, Connecticut Legal Services provides mediation and legal services. Their phone number is listed here. The Connecticut Institute for Refugees and Immigrants, CIRI, supports undocumented individuals to apply for UniteCT, and their phone number is listed there. The workplace hosts the UniteCT call center and the UniteCT mobile bus. The phone number for UniteCT is listed there. The technology bus travels across Connecticut to meet applicants where they're at. Technology equipment, we have 10 computers, 10 iPads, staff on board to help assist with the application process. Who else can help out with application? Anyone who can be a tenant or a landlord representative, anyone who has access to technology, a cell phone or computer connected to the internet. People or places you can go to for help include your landlord, your tenant, social service providers in the community, family, friends, neighbors, libraries, municipalities, churches, schools, and basically anybody in your life that would be willing to help you out with the application and moving the application forward. Someone who has, maybe tech savvy, and we do see a lot of landlords and tenants working together on the application. So that is something that could also happen. From our website, you can find the area median income, a computer near you, and track the UniteCT mobile bus. From our website, we have the UniteCT data up there. This is as of today. So this number is updated daily on our website, and you can see how much assistance has been distributed, how much payments in progress versus our budget. See based on where the filters are on demographic, geographic. You can use an interactive map to see where on a town-by-town basis where the support is being taken advantage of. And we have weekly payment trends as well as weekly approval trends in terms of total number of cases, and then these are dollars out the door. We also have a mark on here which indicates submit fully statewide submitted cases that are fully submitted. We can also see how many cases are in progress and how many have yet to be pre-screened that are in the early stages of their process of the application. From our website, there's specific resources for tenants and resources for landlords. And you can also use the buttons to check the application status and tenants that are facing an eviction, so that we're making sure that we're pulling people into the right pipelines. In terms of resources for landlords, our UniteCT program is working with landlords to have weekly webinars, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. There's 15-minute one-on-one appointments, office hours with Marina, who can answer many of the questions that you may have. And then there's a survey if you have questions about existing cases. If you have over 15 tenants, then you can receive a single auditor through this process. In terms of social media, all of our social media handles are at CTDEPT Housing. So CTDEPT Housing and that's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we have our marketing materials up on our website, as well as our UniteCT Resource Center partners, which are spread throughout the state. All materials are translated in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, and community-based partners will support other language translations on a case-by-case basis. In terms of how to apply, this application process part is for tenants. We'll get into landlords, but they're pretty similar, so they'll give you some background in terms of how the application process looks and how to go about applying. First, you apply through the pre-eligibility screen. To qualify the program, you must earn up to 80% of your town's area median income, and you must be renting your primary residence. Homeowners do not qualify for UniteCT. You must have experienced a loss of income due to COVID-19. After you submit your application, the case manager needs more information about how COVID-19 caused a reduction in income in your household. They will reach out directly if you're experiencing a form of housing instability. On this screen, you'll be asked if you want to apply for rental assistance, electric utility assistance, or both. In terms of sections of the application, yellow triangles means there's missing information, and a blue check mark means it's complete. Note the system will show a blue check mark even if you upload a document that is not accepted by the program. So you want to make sure you're referencing the document matrix on our website to ensure you're uploading the appropriate documents. During the application, you'll be asked to fill out information regarding the following topics: address, occupants living in your household, proof of income of all adult occupants in your household, rental information, landlord information, utility if you owe utility arrearages, mandatory documents, including a valid government photo ID and a lease, and other documents if applicable, including an eviction notice, income attestation form, and a COVID-19 hardship document. In terms of sections of the application, tenants who are only applying for electric utility relief do not need to fill out the information about their rental unit or landlord, but they will attest in the pre-registration page that they are a renter and they're not a homeowner. Landlord participation is not needed for a successful applications that are utility only. So if the applicant is deemed ineligible, the utility company will receive the payment directly. Applicant address screen, just a helpful tip as you're going through this process. Oftentimes the system will allow you to use a suggested address, and in this case, it is the zip +4, which makes it the complete address which the Postal Service recognizes. Pretty simple in terms of connecting and putting your street address, address line 2, city, state, zip, mailing address, and if this is different than the current address. You're going to want to put in the occupant information screen. So the amount of occupants you put in the pre-eligibility screen will show up here. You can click add details and fill out their information, including name, social security number, /ITIN, date of birth, race, gender, ethnicity, employment status. This is how it looks. This is the occupant details that you put in. In terms of income on the screen, if you have zero income, please complete the zero income attestation document. So that document is up on our website, and I'm just getting a little bit of feedback from some of the participants. I'm just gonna ask that everybody mute if you can. That'd be great. This is where you put in the total gross monthly income. You want to make sure that this is the monthly number, not the yearly number. Once everything is uploaded, the status will change from incomplete to complete, and you can add documents to this section here where it says add documents. On the income screen, you'll be asked to report the following sources of income: 2020 federal tax return, wages, tips, overtime, unemployment, government assistance, child support and alimony, pension, social security, and other income. For wages, you should only report the last 4 weeks of income. Check the application for details. If you did not receive a certain type of income, click NA. Should be I did not receive that wages, tips, or overtime, or I did not receive a federal tax return, or the other screens that do pop up. In terms of uploading documents, if you're using a computer, click choose file and upload your files directly to the portal. If you're using a phone, log on to your account, go into this income section, click choose file. Either take a picture of your document or upload a previous picture of your document, and then click save. On the rental information screen, you'll be asked to report the following: number of bedrooms, lease start date, monthly rent, past due rent. So if it's none, just put 0, and then the number of months past due. This is how it looks. In terms of the landlord information screen, you'll be asked to report the following: landlord name, email address, phone number, mailing address. So your application will be linked to your landlords if you put the correct email address. So it's really an important idea to have a conversation with the landlord and the tenant beforehand to say, this is the email I'll be using. Sometimes we find that the landlord or the tenant has a different email, or maybe one is for a super, or one is for the property manager, or maybe one is for a billing question. Just making sure that we have that conversation to say which email you'll be using is very important for the system. Then this will allow the email addresses to register with Yardi. And you can just make sure to call them or have that conversation with them to make sure to know which email to use. On the utility screen, if you do not owe electric company arrearages, click this box. And then you will be asked to report the following utility type: total amount you owe, past due amount, months past due, current amount due, the account number, and then you're going to upload a utility bill statement that demonstrates all months owed by the tenant. On the document screen, you'll be asked to report the following: applicant info, which is a valid government ID, lease or rental agreement. If a lease does not exist, the tenant and the landlord can write a rental agreement, and we have a sample rental agreement that can be used. The rental agreement should include terms of rental agreement, monthly rent amount, number of adult occupants. Agreements should be signed by both the landlord and the tenant. If there's an eviction notice, you're going to want to load that, income, and an income self-attestation document. If a tenant does not make an income, they should download the self-attestation form, fill it out, and upload it to their application. And we have some of these as now checkbox in our system. So instead of having to load the document for that, you can actually check the system. COVID hardship document is another one of those checks. And then you click review and submit. So you're going to want to read the terms and conditions, click the checkbox when everything is done and complete. And if you're missing information, this page will remind you when you get to it, like what is missing from your application. You won't be able to submit if you have the missing application up here. So as an overview of the application process, landlords and tenants must fill out their own application. If the application is approved, landlords will receive a payment directly. In the application, you can choose to receive either direct deposit or check. Landlords will receive 100% of their tenants' past owed rent since March 2020, up to $15,000. Landlords will receive 100% of their tenants' next 3 months of rent if we haven't reached the 12-month cap to this point. For new lease agreements, UniteCT can cover a 1-month security deposit and 3 months prospective rent. So this is how it's kind of flows from one piece to the next. So common mistakes on an application: we want to make sure we're uploading an up-to-date lease or rental agreement, adequate rental arrears schedule or a rental arrears document that shows past due rent by month, a 1 month worth of income documentation, and complete every section of the application. So there's blue check marks going up and down the screen on the left-hand side. Did you reference the document matrix to make sure you're providing acceptable support documents, which can be found on the website and the document matrix. In terms of the application process for landlords, it looks very similarly, but there's different structures and pieces in play that will be important to people who are applying for this process through the landlord section of the application. In terms of sections of the application, the picture to the right shows the necessary fields of the application. So a yellow triangle means there's missing information. A blue check mark again means that the section is complete. So during the application, the landlord will be asked to fill out information regarding the following topics: their information, bank info, users, which is optional, property info, tenant, landlord documents, tenant documents. In terms of the Landlord Info tab, if you have a judicial order of receivership or any other judicial order requiring a payment of rent made to another other than you as the landlord, you'll be asked to upload it under the Landlord Documents tab. Bank Info tab, you'll need to connect to your bank account by clicking Add Bank Account. Provide the account name, account number, routing number, and the account type. And this is kind of how it looks. The system will then go through what is called a penny test to make sure that it is linked to the appropriate bank account. If it fails that, the default will be that you will receive a check to the address that's listed on your application. User tab. This information is optional. Users are meant for property managers who may want to add other landlords to their portal. If you want to add landlords, click Add User and fill out their information. The user should create an account with you already using the same email you provided. Under Role, Add the User means that they can add their own properties, and add an admin means they can edit all the other landlords' information. In terms of a property info tab, each property is linked to its own tenant, has address, payment method, and tax ID. So for the address, the name and address here needs to be used to process checks for this property. For the payment method, if you want to receive the direct deposit, then you must add the account under the bank info page before it shows up there. And the tax ID is EIN or the landlord's SSN, which is the social security number, or the ITIN. And this is how it looks. Tenant tab, link tenants to specific properties you just created under the property info tab. Click on the 3 dots under the select property to receive funds to connect your tenant to a specific property. Information you'll need from your tenant is full name, address, phone number, and email address. Email address for tenant must match perfectly so the system can link applications. You're also going to need monthly rent, past due rent, and the number of months past due, as well as the lease start date. Landlord Documents tab, you're going to upload the following: government form of ID, which can be expired, so long as it has the person's picture and the name matches up with the person who's applying for the program. The IRS form W-9, IRS form W8ECI. You'll load them by clicking Choose File, or you can literally drag and drop them into that section. Tenant document tabs. All tenants who registered under your tenant tab will show up here. You're going to click on the tenant's name, and the screen will expand to show how to upload documents. You can upload multiple documents to each section. You'll be required to upload the following for each household application, which includes a lease or rental agreement. If a lease does not exist, the tenant and the landlord can write a rental agreement. Proof of ownership. You're going to want a mortgage statement or tax bill, and then the arrears amount. Copy of the rent roll your tenant is also submitted for the application. Tenants templates can be found on our website under the important documents section. And then you're going to do the same thing as the tenant side of things. What you're going to do is read the terms and conditions. Click the checkbox at the bottom when everything is complete. If you're missing information, this page will remind you. You can also submit the application for each tenant individually. If you're applying for more than one tenant, you do not need to have all the tenants' applications ready in order to submit the others. So then you can go to case info once you've completed the piece of your application, whether it's the landlord or the tenant or both. You can see the case number, and then I'll give you this case number here, and I'll show you whether the case number there's a case auditor has not been assigned here in time. This will process forward so that we can have that case assigned and then turned around so that it'll eventually be upon review it will be paid out. You can use this case info screen to see if you've been assigned the case auditor, and if your tenant has not completed the application, or if the landlord has not completed the application, your file will not move forward. You will not receive the case auditor, and that's a key indicator right there. Case auditors will reach out directly to the tenant or landlord if there's any missing information. Overview of the application process. Again, landlords and tenants must fill out their own application. If the application is approved, landlords will receive a payment directly. In the application, you can choose to receive either direct deposit or check. Landlords will receive 100% of their tenants' past owed rent since March 2020 up to $15,000 or 12 months. Landlords will receive 100,000 of their tenants' next 3 months of rent. For new lease agreements, the UniteCT can cover 1 month security deposit and 3 months of prospective rent. At this time, I'll open it up for any questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen. And I'll just say thank you for sitting through this presentation, and then we'll open it up to any questions that you guys may have.
I have a question. This is Jonathan McClay. I'm a resident at the VA home here in Rocky Hill. If somebody just wanted to apply for electricity, do they have to provide you with how COVID affected them?
Yeah, that'd be a COVID attestation. Many times the COVID attestation can be done through the checkbox in the pre-registration page to say, yes, there has been an impact.
Okay, so that's just a check mark?
Yes.
I'll intercept that a little bit. It is a check mark, but when it goes to underwriting, the auditors are going to ask if you have a fixed income, they're going to ask you for more details about the COVID hardship. And there's a one-page document that it goes into more detail.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
It's not for me, by the way. It's for a friend of mine.
Okay, that's good.
Say we have a hand up, just jump in.
Oh, hi. I have a complicated, little bit of an abstract question. I'm also a veteran, recently affected by Hurricane Henry and Ida. So I'm displaced right now currently. And I don't know if there's a more direct line other than the call center to be able to talk about the situation. So I guess that's going to be my first question.
So I know Steve's on here from housing. I think we're gonna get into that a bit. I will say our program is pretty specific for people that are looking for new rental assistance coverage, if it's prospective rent in a new property, or if we can pay arrears for an existing property. I know Steve will talk about the housing programs that are in place for those that are displaced.
Okay, I've just say like it's a little abstract because I've kind of been experiencing hardship for quite some time because of the COVID. So even before Henry and Ida caused my dislocation, I've been kind of going through things, but I guess Timothy put on the chat there that they have the extension for the screening and stuff. But my specific situation, and it's not just me, so I guess I want to ask here so that I can learn more and help other veterans that live in my neighborhood that also were relocated. The landlord has not been the most communicative with the tenants, and apparently there has been other veterans in the same complex that as a part of their lease agreement they would have electricity included and utility included, where for my personal case it wasn't. And I don't know if it was something that they were trying to like take advantage of. It kind of feels like that because of, you know, all the social injustices happening across our country at this time. And that's just like my personal perception. I may be wrong. But I noticed because another veteran had received documentation through email about my case. So I wanted to bring it up because it's kind of important, especially today with like cybersecurity, other people getting a hold of my private information. Like luckily I was able to learn about what was going on and claim ownership of my case files and stuff. But basically, like I've been paying electrical utilities and stuff for my apartment even before it got flooded. And other veterans had it in their lease. Apparently, every other veteran that lived in my complex, where we were housed, and we're part of the Veteran Assisted Housing Program, VASH, that works closely with the Housing and Urban Development. But
So one thing, like this is Dawn Parker. So in those kind of situations, when you have questions about your VASH or your apartment, you would
No,
go
no, no.
to
I understand. It's what I'm getting to is that like because like during 2020, the end of 2020, whenever COVID originally started, I believe it was like in January or something. I had difficulty having stable employment because I was trying to go get vaccinated and get tested and screened and everything, and a lot of employers wouldn't like work with me. So because of that reason, I wanted to ask if I, qualified due to the hardship experienced by COVID, because that's what I feel like, I've been experiencing for the past almost 2 years now, and it's been
So UniteCT, it is the rental response for people who have been affected by COVID and who had an income loss or excessive expenses, and they weren't able to pay their rent, or in subsidized housing, they weren't able to pay their rent subsidy. So you could apply for that arrearage and well, if it's subsidized housing, it's just arrearage, but you can apply to UniteCT for that. Yes.
Okay. My next question is, I saw that it said that tenants who qualify, they the requirements to qualify are that they earn up to 80% of the median income, whatever the payment schedule or whatever that was. So I just wanted to ask and clarify for myself, does that mean that if I earn anything, does that count towards
Correct.
going
It's
up
actually,
to 80%? Because anything below 80% is below the 100%, the people that would need help. So when I'm like asking you guys to help,
So
I
for the
want to make
income-
sure that I qualify for the help.
well, you know what I also think? I think it would be very helpful so we can get to other questions and also let Steve talk about some other Department of Housing programs. We have UniteCT resource centers that are established throughout the state of Connecticut. And on our website has the link. So where you live, you would call your local UniteCT resource center. You'll also see that on our website, there's different tools to help you to understand. It's a household income program. So anybody who's over the age of 18, their income goes into that calculation for the 80%. There's an interactive map on the website so you can see where you live and what that dollar amount would be for your household. So if we could take the questions to somebody like in the UniteCT Resource Center, that'll be really helpful too.
Yeah, I'll make some time for other people to have their questions answered. I'm sorry.
And on the screen here, we have the UniteCT Resource Centers. These are also available on our website.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. We have another hand up.
Matt, maybe, are you supposed to send it off to Steve if there's no more questions for UniteCT?
That's correct. It'll be Steve can jump in if we just want to pause for a second to see if there's any final questions for UniteCT.
Hello?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Bob Westernhoff. I'm also a veteran. I'm listening to this for various couple of reasons. First, Matthew, thank you for your presentation. One of the things I'm concerned about is that it went very quickly. How is this available to everybody? Is this general knowledge that people know about this, that anybody can just, who's maybe homeless because of the pandemic or is in a house that he can't pay for, how is this becoming available to them so that they know about it?
So we have our website. We're trying to get out to far-reaching communities. We're working with our resource centers to spread the word about UniteCT. This presentation, from my understanding, is being recorded so that it can be shared on the website later. And we also take an approach of anyone can be an advocate, anyone can be a representative. If you have friends, family that may be involved in, rental situations that, they could use some assistance because of the global pandemic, we're here to help. So help us spread that word and let them know about that. Most of the information that we went over, including the trainings and in-depth looks on how the application process, is on our website. So I would encourage you to go there and encourage you to reach out to UniteCT Resource Centers, which is on our website. And I also shared it just a few seconds ago, and I can share it again just to keep it up while we're doing that. These resource centers are very helpful in the sense of being able to connect you to resources in your area and work through application process through the UniteCT application and seeing if there might be different measures that can be employed to help you out with housing stability questions.
My second comment is I think it would help as a suggestion that you might want to share this with Connecticut Works with unemployment for people who are dealing with that. Also, I know it's been working with Columbus House and Connecticut Housing and Homelessness, that their biggest concern is because of what's going on right now, that there's going to be a lot more homeless people. Maybe you could share this with the Connecticut Housing and Homelessness and the Columbus House so that they have a link up to this, so that if they know of people who may be losing their rent or may be out in the streets, that they can refer them to you.
That's a great suggestion. Thanks for bringing that forward. I know we've done some work with the CT Works and the different workforce development and then workforce investment boards throughout the state. We're partnered pretty closely with the workplace, but we also have done fairly extensive outreach to the workforce investment boards so that they can have this information, share this information. Some of the workforce investment boards themselves are helping people process applications in their facilities. And we are trying to spread the word as near and far. So going back to my previous suggestion, if you have friends, family, colleagues, even former enemies that you want to share this with, we're glad to take them on, and we're hopeful to help out all that we can.
Matt, can we get your email address?
So we're really trying to keep the contact to the resource centers because they're going to be on the ground, hands-on approach. We're working on administering the program, and they can be the best sources of knowledge for you. Those numbers are shown here on the screen, but also up on the website for you.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any final other questions before we hand this over to Steve?
Yeah. She has her hand up.
Hi, I have another question, if you can hear me. Just for anyone that's able to qualify for the program, just due to the housing market and COVID era and this pandemic era that we're in, are you guys able to assign manpower to help secure housing opportunities that are able to work with these programs for veterans that aren't able, to express how these programs work to any future landlords or to any, body renting out properties where the veterans in question may be looking? Are you guys able to assist in that capacity, like the apartment searching or anything like that?
Yeah, so again, want to point out our resource centers. Many of them are housing counseling agencies or in the housing space. So they are aware of different properties and which properties may be coming available. They are great resources in terms of, finding additional rental relationships and looking at possible properties. And they're going to know when properties are becoming available, and that's pretty important for them. That's why we pulled them in. Along with the case processing piece, they're actually very helpful in that aspect of it. So again, that hands-on, on-the-ground approach, the UniteCT resource centers, many of which are housing counseling agencies, are working directly on that. I see one more hand up, I think.
Hey, Matt, I just have one more question. How far back are you guys going to pay people's electricity? Last March, last April?
Yeah, so we go back to rental accounts April 2020. We were doing a different number, and that is switched over as of yesterday, today. So it's the April 2020. I think we had to put a line in terms of like when the end of the month would be. So we go back to arrearages that are specific to utility to the beginning of April 2020.
Beginning of April 2020. Okay, thank you.
Okay, cool. Cool. You can, that should help you. It should help us.
And we're actually working on our system for the electric payments that we're working directly with the utility companies. We started in the last few days working directly with UI, Eversource. We're going to be working with the other utility companies in the state to make those payments directly, so that that those arrearages for rental properties can have a direct payment made to the utility companies to clear up those outstanding bills.
Yeah, that's no problem. You don't have to pay us and then we pay them. That would be fine. That would be fine.
I see one more hand up.
Robert, unmute yourself. Robert.
Steve, are you on the line to be able to take and present some things about the other programming at Department of Housing?
Sure.
Okay.
So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve DeLallo with the Connecticut Department of Housing. I'm the director of the Individual and Family Support Program Unit at DOH, and we manage the state's response to homelessness, both before the pandemic and obviously during the pandemic. So I'll go over a couple of the different programs, many of which we have presented on stand downs before, as well as adding some new information on resources that we have received as a result of some federal funding due to COVID and the resources that have come about. So about 6 or 7 years ago, we redefined our homeless service system to have a single point of entry, which is by calling the 211 info line. If you're experiencing a housing crisis, individuals who are experiencing a housing crisis, when they call 211, they are asked some information to determine the severity of their housing instability, and hopefully 211 has some additional resources that can resolve that instability right then and there. If that is not able to happen, they are able at 211 to set up an appointment with one of our 7 coordinated access networks, and from there an appointment is given to do a deeper dive into that housing instability, because at that appointment we may have some resources that we can bring to bear that would actually prevent households from entering into homelessness. That is a program called Homeless Diversion, because clearly our goal is to keep people stably housed in the community instead of entering unstable housing through homelessness in our system. If diversion is unsuccessful, then we work to identify available shelter space for any individuals that would need it. During the pandemic, we have also been able to access hoteling options, so non-congregate sheltering, so that we don't have to put people in a congregate setting where COVID could spread, especially among a population that has comorbid health conditions that could lead to poor outcomes. So we've been able to expand non-congregate options as well. So overall, our system has a little bit fewer beds due to COVID. However, we are managing that, like I said, through hotels. Once individuals are in shelter, we work with them to try to identify the best option for permanent housing. In many instances, those individuals are able to self-resolve with minimal help from our system. but there are about half or so of the population that does come in will need some sort of housing assistance. So we have a couple different types of rental assistance that is made available after that point. One is called rapid rehousing, and that is for individuals that will receive rental assistance and case management support upwards of 6 to 12 months, with the possibility going up to 2 years with some extensions. With the ultimate goal of that individual household taking on their own rental payment after our assistance ends. Now, for folks that have even higher barriers for housing, we have a program called Permanent Supportive Housing, which provides a permanent rental subsidy with case management support. And the goal there is to provide somebody, that rental assistance so they can live independently in the community, as well as having that case management support there to help with any issues that may come up and to connect them to mainstream resources, whether it's healthcare, mental health care, substance abuse treatment, employment, education, childcare, or any list of other resources that the household may be eligible for. So through this system, we have been able to identify and move folks out of homelessness. Since the creation of our coordinated entry system, our homelessness numbers have decreased, which is really good news. And we've been able to expand our resources over the course of time. Now with COVID, we have been able to expand our resources even farther due to the fact that we got additional funding from the federal government. We received a program called the Emergency Solutions Grant, which generally pays for our rapid rehousing and our emergency shelters. We got quite a large expansion of that. So we were able to add nearly $8 million of that assistance to our overall system. So with that, we're able to help out clearly a lot more households with that. But we also didn't want to let this just happen for that population. For rapid rehousing, we also wanted to expand other programs, including our homeless diversion. So we added funding there. Our homeless outreach, because we understood that there were more individuals that were out on the street. So we wanted to ensure that we had folks that can actually outreach and engage them and bring them into shelter or into permanent housing. We also created a homeless prevention program. However, with the presentation you heard previously about UniteCT, we were really actively working on merging those two programs so we can actually be collaborative with our partners at DOH. In addition, we were also able to add funding for services to make sure that there's enough case management resources out there, as well as paying things for shelters such as hazard pay to make sure that they were able to manage during the pandemic. We've also been lucky enough to receive additional housing vouchers through the federal government during this time. We received approximately 450 to 500 new vouchers, which we've been actively distributing through that coordinated access and coordinated entry process that I spoke of before. So we are actively trying to identify additional households that are in need and try to match them to the appropriate resource as best as we can during this time. So like I said earlier, if anybody's having a housing crisis, the best option is to call 211 to start our process. And hopefully we'll be able to provide some level of support to the majority of folks who call into our system. So that is an overview of the programs that we've been able to provide. So at this point, I will take any questions. It looks like my screen is blank, so I'm not sure if everything froze.
Hi, I have a question. If
Okay.
you guys can hear me.
Yes, I can, because I can't see anything else now. My screen is completely blank, so go ahead with your question.
For people that may have been affected recently by Hurricane Henry or Hurricane Ida that may have been displaced and are in hotels or in temporary housing situations, would those programs be something that those individuals would be able to qualify for?
So the hoteling obviously is available. However, they wouldn't be eligible for some of the resources I mentioned because HUD puts a restriction on folks that are literally homeless. So if you are, and that's defined as staying in a street or shelter because you have nowhere else to go. If there is damage due to hurricanes, that is more where FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, will come in and provide those level of services. So there should be connections with agencies like the Salvation Army and other relocation specialists that should be able to help with FEMA funds.
Well, with I'm sorry to interrupt, situations due to infrastructure, where the city or state or even back down to the town may not have recognized the hurricane as a natural disaster in terms of how FEMA responds. But because of like a situation due to like infrastructure, sewers, underground tunnels not being able to have the capacity, or people that live in low elevation areas, like normally we don't think about it because we don't live that close to the ocean. Like people
Sure.
only living at the beach typically would be the ones living about it. But I guess due to climate change, the reality is some of veterans have to think about it. And I'm kind of throwing myself as well into that category because that's what happened to me and my neighbors. But for anyone that may be experiencing that, would they be able to work with someone from any of those programs? Is there, adequate manpower,
I still think the best way to manage that would be to call into the 211 system, because they may have some added information about some emergency management resources that could be brought to bear. There's also other agencies within the state of Connecticut, the Department of Emergency Management Services, called DEMIS and Homeland Security, that they do have regional managers that do respond to such issues like this. So generally that is where some of those calls go to. So I would say, once again, call 211 because they have a vast knowledge of the appropriate referral stream. Because like I said, with the stuff we've been talking about, it's been more homeless related, so not necessarily emergency management due to hurricane related. If, however, somebody is displaced permanently because of it, then that's possibly where we would be able to come in and assist.
Okay, so there's a possibility. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say go to 211 first, and I think you would run it through all the emergency management processes before coming to our system.
Okay. I believe Robert may have a question.
Yeah, I can't see anything, so just go ahead. I can't see hands up or anything. So if you have a question when somebody's finished, just shout it out.
You mentioned about the recordings to be able to record, see these later and share them. Do you know when that will be available and how we will find out about it?
I do not know that answer. I'm sure there's somebody here from the VA or the State Veterans Administration that should be able to answer that question.
All right, thank you.
Yes, hi, my name is Martha Ramirez, and I'm from the IT department here at DVA. The recordings will be available in YouTube, and most likely, if not next week, the week after, we will let you know, Matthew, we will let you know when is it that these recordings are available.
Okay, that's pretty convenient because I was under the impression it was just being recorded for safety and, regulatory purposes. But does the Department of Housing have a YouTube channel that they upload these to?
I know we have a Twitter account. I'm not sure if we have a YouTube channel. I don't know if Dawn or Matt,
Yeah, I'm sorry. YouTube that will be releasing the videos, everybody has access. It's for the public. So I don't think there'll be any restrictions. Again, we'll need to make some edits at the beginning and at the end of the presentation to make sure that everything is covered, and it should be available for everybody, for the general public.
Does anybody else have any additional questions for me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
I was just, you'd mentioned the diversion program.
Yes.
If you're going to be losing housing and there's help to keep you in it,
Yes.
I was kind of glad to hear that, because over the last couple of years, I've lived in my home for over 30 years now, and I almost lost it twice.
Okay.
Because I couldn't pay. And when I went to the VA, I was told, well, we can't do anything for you now, but once you lose it, come to us and we'll put you up in an apartment and everything. And I said, well, why do I have to lose everything? Okay.
Yeah.
To get help. And I was glad to hear that this program, I wished I'd known about this program, because I had to fight tooth and nail to keep my house. One of the times I was like within 2 days of being foreclosed.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad to hear that there's a program that, I guess the state has versus, the VA, because, when you've been in your home and, you've got all kinds of issues and you got your 2 pups, they said, well, you'd have to get rid of your pups. And it's like, no, not going to happen, over my dead body. I'm not giving up my pups. I'll live in my car before I give up my pups. They're all I have. So, it was nice to hear that you have a program like this.
Yeah, so when you're talking about rental assistance, generally that is handled more, not necessarily through our programs, but there is there is homeowners or foreclosure assistance through the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority. So generally, when you're looking at DOH, we tend to deal more with the rental end of it. So if somebody is facing eviction, if somebody's being kicked out of their family apartment, that's where we kind of bring in the diversion resources. In a case like you are mentioning that you actually own your home, have a mortgage on your home, and things are not going so well, that's where we'd refer more to the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority for some assistance with their foreclosure prevention program. So there is a state program for that, just not the one I talked about.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that. That was, that was nice to know. I'm not in the same position I was over the last couple of years, but I mean, I was incredulous that I had to lose everything before I could get help. And
that certainly used to be the case with many of our programs. And I think, as we've gotten more information, as we've gotten more experience with, dealing with the wide range of people and why they experience housing instability, we're trying to expand our options to be able to help people along the different entry points to our system. Clearly, we do not have enough resources to be able to assist everyone. That's why we're actually excited about UniteCT, because that is probably the single largest investment in housing resources than we've ever been able to see in the state of Connecticut. So it's really an awesome opportunity to kind of manage some of these issues. So yes, we have created a diversion program. Is it as well funded as we would like? No. But can we assist households? Yes. Just unfortunately, we can't assist everybody because, we are limited in the amount of funding that we do have.
Right. And the thing of it was I wasn't able to work. And, I finally got my permanent and total disability through the VA. That was a 7-year saga. But when I didn't know, I applied, one of the lawyers from the Connecticut Veterans Legal had me apply to Social Security, and in 60 days, they approved me for disability.
That's very fast too.
Yes. And that was the thing that saved me this last spring from going down the tubes almost for a 3rd time. Okay. Because that came through. And then after that, the VA total disability finally came through. But I mean, when you can't work and you don't have any money and you're trying to keep your house, and the thought of, gee, I got to lose everything, and then to get help from them, I've got to give up my 2 dogs. They're my life right now. And I'm like, no, I'll put me and the 2 dogs in the car and I'll drive to South Florida and I'll live in my car in South Florida. That was my mindset for quite a long time. And, it's kind of scary. So I'm glad to hear that they're looking at other ways, to try to help people, because, why should I have to start all over again? I needed some help, and my mortgage wasn't a lot. It was $870 a month. I got a small house. So, I mean, just to keep my house and keep me afloat, I mean, for 5 years, every day it was like, is my nose going to go under the water today? So
Yeah,
But-
so I'm glad everything has worked out for you. That's
Yes.
really exciting.
But I wanted to say thank you for at least, presenting those other options.
We're
'Cause
trying. We're trying.
I didn't know about those options,
Yeah.
over the last
Well,
couple
they
of
were relatively new as well on our end. So
Yeah. Thank you.
are there any other questions?
I don't see any hands up.
Okay.
Hey, Steve, this is Paul Spitaleri. I want to thank you, Steve, Matt, and Dawn for your presentations and all the good questions that everybody presented today. It was very good conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Department of Housing.
Great. Thanks. And if anybody has any questions, just find us on the Department of Housing website.
Freddie, thank you. We will end the session. Thank you all for participating today.
Thanks.